Process. We're going live a little bit early today just because we know and we're being time conscious. We're being conscious of your time. If you're here joining us live, that the Sixers game 5 starts at the Wells Fargo Center down in South Philadelphia at 8 o'clock. So we want to get you out of here in plenty of time. If you're going to the bar, if you're sitting in front of the TV, we want you to be able to get nice and comfortable for either of those options. But we are Trust the Process live. As always, I'm your host, James Hyden, here with my guys. We're going to change it up a little bit. Maximilian Coolish, the man of many digits. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm ready. I'm ready to watch some ball tonight, man. Let's hope we get a nice couple of days off here.
I love that. Doc Lock, Josh Saffron, what are we locking in tonight?
Oh man, what are we locking in tonight? I got a little keep it simple, stupid parlay.
Bless the people, Josh.
For the Nets game tonight. The Sixers game, I'm a little more apprehensive, but for the Nets game, I got Nets money line, Durant 25 plus, and Nets total team over 110. Simple, easy, should hit. I'm thinking the Nets win tonight, and Red Sox money line while we're at it tonight. Disclaimer, have not been too hot on baseball, so I'm trying to get into it. But man, I'm all right, Banners. I'm all right. This was a fantastic weekend. It was like a send-off weekend to end my college experience here. So very, very bittersweet. This is it. Today was the last day of classes, gents. We are all but out and ready to be, knocked around by the real world. So that's me.
Hey, get ready. It's coming. Nice. I should have. I forgot. I thought it was next week. I would have had the graduation.
We graduate next week, so you can still pull it out.
All right, cool. I'll break out. I'll pull out that poll, and we'll get that uploaded. But let's jump right into it. And we're gonna start obviously with there's some big news that came out on the front of our current superstar and a former quote unquote superstar. We're gonna start with our superstar first, the man that Philadelphia loves and adores. And boys, I don't even. This is my take on this. I'm not going to offer a full take. This is just this year's dose of pain and suffering that the 76ers that I didn't know if it was coming, and it just hit me in the face when I was on a job. I was at work, at a studio. We were breaking down for the day, and the news comes across. Joel Embiid has a torn ligament in his thumb. And my first thought was, please, God, whatever God there is, Abraham, Allah, I don't care who, I'm not a religious man, whoever it is, whatever God I found in Jamaican G's jerk chicken, if that's who it is, I don't care. Just let it be his non-shooting hand. And of course, it's this year's just dose of pain and suffering. So, boys, tell me how to feel. Like, is the downfall coming? Are we waiting on the fall of this year's 76ers? Is this another second-round exit, Josh?
First of all, shout out to, I want to say Lionel. It doesn't look like Lionel. It's more of a Lionel Hill.
I think it's, yeah.
Lionel Hill just out here nailing every single point 3 minutes in. Like, wow. Way to check all the boxes right there, Lionel.
All right, wrap it up.
We're done.
We're done,
boys. It all for us.
Done here.
Jesus, man, this sucks, right? I mean, I really believed. Silly me for believing, man. I really thought that things were different this year. I thought once Joel made the shot that was kind of representative of how there was a change in the guard, because they never make the shot. The Sixers never make that shot. I can't think of any time other than like Iggy, right, against the Bulls, where the Sixers in a big moment have actually made the shot. The shot's always getting made against us, it feels like. I thought that was the turning point. Then, of course, he brought up the news. I think it's Meltdown City, fellas. I really tried to believe. And admittedly, I didn't catch the entire game. I went over the fills, but I got the gist. And the gist is that Embiid is just, he's going to try, and he's going to try and gut it out, but he's not Embiid. He is not the point-scoring champion that he was of the season, and you're going to have to rely on the rest of your team, which is terrifying. Fellas, I have a very sinking feeling if they lose tonight. I mean, I don't think you can look past this round of the Raptors anymore. They need to win tonight. Because if you lose tonight in Philadelphia, you go back to Toronto, you sure as hell aren't winning that game 6 in Toronto. I think if you lose tonight, you're talking about game 7. Like, I can't even look past this round right now. And I'm trying not to freak out.
You're freaking out.
I'm freaking out, fellas.
You're freaking out right
I feel like you can
You're
almost
freaking
throw
me
away.
out.
I'm freaking you out, Max?
Yeah, I'm not worried at all, Josh.
You're
Yes,
sure?
Max. Let my
I'm not worried at
infectious
all. Like
confidence come to you.
I'm shocked. I am shocked that you think Embiid. I'm shocked that you think this thumb is really killing Embiid. Like, yes, I'm sure it's not. He's not 100% by any means, but I saw enough where I'm not at least worried about this series. Like,
I don't know, man.
these games in Philadelphia were both double-digit blowouts. Josh,
Right.
I'm okay. I'm ready for tonight. The Raptors are without Fred VanVleet, who was, for as bad as he played in the 2 games in Toronto, he was, probably equally as good in the first 2 games in Philly. So, that's a big piece missing for them. And I don't know. I'm not particularly worried, honestly. I think the job gets done tonight. I think you give Embiid 4. I mean, obviously, it also depends on what happens with Hawks Heat, but the Heat look like they're going to clean that up in the next game or 2 potentially, right? We're obviously cheering for the Hawks at this point, and hoping that series goes as long as it can for additional rest. With that said, Embiid said it's not enough where he can't play through it. So I'm trusting the dude who's always played through everything he can. Like he did this. He made the shot with the thumb, Josh. Like this thumb thing happened in game 3. Apparently, I believe it. I saw him holding at it in game 3. I remember.
No, it was definitely already hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it got brought to whatever level it's at now in game 3. And that's my point. Like I've seen this dude nail the 0.7 seconds left on the shot clock game winner with this thumb. Like I'm not freaking out. And I'm definitely not freaking out about the Raptors with Fred VanVleet.
So real quick, I'm going to do the thing that everyone hates when people who don't play professional sports do. Okay. So first of all, I will say about the shot he made with the torn ligament, it's adrenaline, man. The adrenaline when you're playing the game, it's nothing. I played an intramural game. My last intramural game of my career, I busted my toe up. It didn't hurt at all. I went to bed. It felt fine. Woke up the next day. Oh, my God, man. I could barely walk for the next month. So that's me doing the thing where I'm the not professional player comparing myself to Joel Embiid. But it is to a certain extent. It's like, man, that's adrenaline. And now I'm going to do the second thing people also hate. I am not a doctor. But I have watched people on Twitter who are doctors talk about this Joel Embiid injury. And what I'm gathering from it is it's one of those things where he can't really hurt it that much more, but there's really not much more he can do to heal it other than surgery at this point. So I'm not overly optimistic about even – and I hope they take care of business. I'm like so 50-50 about whether they do or not tonight. But the point is, even if they do, I'm not putting any stock into Embiid getting the rest of his hand helping him. So, like – I'm kind of concerned about this series straight up, which I hate to say, but I am straight panicking about the next series and any hopes of getting out of the second round or Eastern Conference Finals, that whole thing. Like, I feel you can kind of put a fork in it, man. I hate to be this guy. I hate to do it. I've seen it before. I've seen this every year before.
Max, I'm with you, man, because to win this series and to beat the Heat, you don't need a superhero Joel Embiid. To me, because we had Ala Abdelnaby, obviously the color analyst for your 76ers on the Farzy show this morning with Mark Farzetta. And Mark asked him the question, he compared it to like the longest hangnail, like the biggest hangnail you've ever had. It's not going to cripple you, but it's going to annoy you so much that it's going to affect you. So like looking back at at the box score of last game, Joel Embiid shot a touch under 50% from the floor, and he shot 0 for 1 from beyond the three-point line. That's what's going to change. The way he plays is going to change because he's not going to be taking 3 threes per game. Yeah. So the spacing is going to be different, which is going to require Maxey and Harden to step up more, which is why I don't my confidence doesn't change here and in the second round because you do have the luck of the draw against the Miami Heat. This pretty much signals that you're not going past the Eastern Conference Finals, though, because a matchup versus the Bucks or the Celtics, who look like the best team in the NBA right now, is going to require a superhuman. Well, let's not even call it superhuman. It's going to require a regular season Joel Embiid where he can average 35 and take over the team. So unless James Harden snaps back to who he was in Houston, which, again, I'm not ruling out. We don't know how that hamstring feels. But I haven't seen it in the playoffs, so
yeah, that's well played. I'm not ruling it out, and I'm not counting on it either. That's the thing, and I think maybe that's the disconnect between you two and me right now, where it's like we're both admitting, like, okay, Joe not going to be the 35-point a night guy because I don't want to say we took it for granted, but it was almost like if the Sixers were playing, you knew Embiid was going to score 30. It was used to it. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
And just the reality is that James Harden's going to have to go from being co-pilot, and he's going to have to grab the steering wheel here and maybe press on the gas. Now, it remains to be seen. I really don't have a qualm with James Harden. I don't really have a bone to pick with how he's been playing, but I could in the next few days, I think is what I'm trying to say here.
Beautiful segue, Josh, because our second question is exactly what you and I both kind of alluded to in our answers. And are we going to see the James Harden of Houston? And what your last point right there is kind of where my segue begins is there really hasn't been an opportunity for him to take those reins, because you're not going to come in as James Harden and try and take the reins away from the scoring champion, who is the first scoring champ since Shaq, who is on the good side of 30. Embiid's 26, 27 at most. I think he's only 26. He seems older than he is.
Pretty sure.
You're not going to come in and take the reins away from Embiid. So can he kind of turn back the clock and do it now because he has to and because he wants to? So Josh, I'm going to come right back to you, man. Will we ever see the Rocket version of James Harden?
No. I mean, the short answer is no. You're not going to see the Rockets version of James Harden. It's just the reality. I think you can potentially get a version close to that, but you're not going to get the Rockets version. And I think that's okay, right? I think asking for the Rockets version might be asking a little bit too much. That was not a polarizing and an encapsulating player. It's appointment television right there. And I think he's got to be close to it. And this might not be what people want to hear from me, but I think he's got to start chucking a little bit more. And that sounds like, what? Why do you want a guy just chucking up shots? But I do think a lot of James Harden's game is just, it sounds stupid, but it's volume shooting. I just pulled up a game log from his playoffs in 2018. I just what's a recent year where, he was still good? He's taking double-digit threes in just about every game. And that's when he's scoring 30s. That's where he's scoring the 40s. And that's just, he knows his role now. And his role is not to be taking double-digit threes every game. But I think we're going to need to see that. And I think you're going to get a clunker. Of course you're going to get a clunker. He's not as good of a shooter as he was before, but it's just basic math. If you shoot more, you're going to have to make more pretty much. And I think that's what people who are fans of the Sixers might have to be okay with getting a notoriously bad James Harden game, because I think if you have a one notorious bad James Harden game, you're going to get two or three really good ones. And I don't know if Harden feels comfortable to do that right now, because we know he's willing to do that. We've seen him do it in so many playoff games before. I just don't know if he's comfortable because he respects Embiid and he respects us being Embiid's team. I almost feel like Embiid needs to have a conversation with him and be like, yo, James, I just can't carry the team. You're going to have to chuck some more shots up. And I think it's an interesting dynamic, because I've been talking about this all weekend. You can really make a case. This is James Harden's best team he's ever been in the playoffs with. Sure, that team with Chris Paul was phenomenal, and I do believe you're a Chris Paul healthy away from beating the Warriors that year. But I just don't think he's used to being not the number one guy. Because even with Chris Paul, James Harden's the number one guy. Chris Paul's getting the ball to James Harden. Even on the Nets, for the majority of the time he played there, the other two guys weren't even playing. And Harden was pretty much the number one guy. I just don't know if he is comfortable being the alpha on this team and chucking up shots. I'm so curious what we're going to see tonight. And I'm not sure if you're going to see it in this Raptors series, but forget about actual point totals. I'm more invested on the shots, the attempts totals, because I will live with him having a rough game. I need to see him play through that, because, fellas, the Nets game might have broke him a little bit, because he did keep shooting, and ever since then, I feel like he hasn't had one of those nights where he just tries to shoot through it. He's much quicker to defer. There's nowhere to run anymore, man. It is your team. Tyrese Maxey's going off. But, dude, you are the former MVP, not Maxey. Maxey hasn't won Rookie of the Year. Maxey hasn't won Most Improved. This is not a knock on Maxey. This is a knock on Harden, man. Step up. It's your turn.
The man of many digits. Will we see the Rockets version of James Harden, and do we need to?
In short, we probably won't see it. I think we're good against the Raptors, but Josh covered most of it. The only thing that I just would touch on specifically is maybe a matchup with the Heat. I think we might need some vintage James Harden in a series like that. Bam is probably one of a handful of guys in the league who is capable of even being a defensive matchup against Embiid. And obviously Embiid not being able to play with his full scoring range, would obviously only help Bam Adebayo's chances in playing good defense on him throughout a series. But we've seen the Heat's guards be suspect defensively. Like Kyle Lowry is a willing defender, but he's over 30, he's like 32, and he's never been known as a lockdown perimeter guy. Obviously, Tyler Hero is a double-edged sword. You put him on the floor for offense, and you're not really getting anything out of the defensive side of him. Guys like Gabe Vincent and Max Strus are solid role players, but like, if the Heat are deciding to do that instead of like Jimmy Butler or actively putting PJ Tucker on the ball on someone like Maxey or Harden, like, you're gonna have to cook the guys who are the backups, right? Like, it's one thing if it's Jimmy Butler and PJ Tucker holding you to bad scoring nights or suboptimal shot selections, but if it's if you're able to if you're letting yourself get bullied around by the bench and not getting what you want against the bench, like, that is when we're going to run into an issue. Like, maybe the Heat are running on high vibes right now because the Hawks are not a very threatening team. Like, they did their thing last year, and obviously the Sixers were a part of that. But like, I think you can look at this Hawks team and be like, yeah, they're not a team that's really like going to seriously make any noise in the playoffs. Like, they got there. That's kind of a testament to how good Trae Young is. And I think that, he deserves some recognition for that. But like, that's not a roster that's competing, especially in a series against a 1 seed this year. So maybe it's just because, the vibes are high in Miami right now that I'm a little bit worried or just kind of looking into it that way. But I do think the Sixers are a better team than the Hawks, right? Like, I don't think that's really much of a stretch to say here. But I do think that the Sixers could find themselves in a difficult position if James Harden is either not being a willing shooter or is just if he gets in the clamps, like then it's pretty much leaving it all on the Maxey. And I've said here for the last couple of weeks, it's not fair, and it's not what this team is built as to put all the pressure on a 21-year-old kid to have to go out and score 30 every night on the road against the number 1 seed.
Can I just, would it be too unfair of me to ask for just the version that we got of him in the first 5 games when he came here?
No,
and I think that's really a good mix of reasonable and necessary.
That first game against the Timberwolves, man, was like
the first 4 games,
poetry.
Man.
I mean, I was so locked into that Timberwolves game. It was like it was it felt like there was a major world event happening. Like, the Sixers had traded for Harden and like I was dialed in for that game. But yeah, I mean, that game was just so awesome to watch. It was like, holy shit, this is exactly the guy who I wanted to be. And obviously, I'm not going to expect him to flirt with a super efficient triple-double every night. Right. But like, I'll take an inefficient flirt with a triple-double by any day of the week.
Especially right now.
I just wanted to touch on the Heat series. We want to play this game just because you went down the road a little bit. What I've noticed from the Heat Hawks is Gabe Vincent is an absolute dog. Like, he has completely earned my respect. But it seems like the Heat are taking like a Bill Belichick approach where they're like, all right, we're going to take Trae Young out of the game completely. Rest of you guys beat us. And that makes me kind of like, I'm ready to take on the Heat because it's like, well, you could take out Harden. You got Maxey. You take out Maxey, you got Harden. That's something that makes me feel pretty good about that Heat series.
The Heat's just a weird series to forecast because I would say one of the Sixers' worst losses of the year was I guess it was probably like mid-February. They played at Miami.
It was earlier.
It was earlier than that. Yeah, I mean, it was like right around the All-Star break, either on a week or two before or after. And this was their 3rd game in 4th nights. So I expected them to look a little dead, but they got embarrassed. They scored like their least amount of points in that game. Actually, they scored the least amount of points in a single game that season at Miami that one time. Yep. But then on the other hand, they had the B team game where the B team absolutely handled Miami at full strength. I think minus Bam. I believe everybody else played that night. Yep. And I mean the Furkan and the boys just absolutely dumpstered the Heat. So like, get out of my head. I'm just saying, dude, Furkan popped off in that game. Like, that's a fact. And Furkan Korkmaz, he's my X factor for next series.
Screw you. No, Max, I was literally thinking the same thing. Like, there was one of the worst losses of the season, but then there was it was literally called the B team win. It's crazy because, and Josh, I think you missed a part of the equation there. Like, Bam is obviously gonna shadow Joel Embiid the whole time, but you're gonna the Heat are gonna try and take out one of Maxey and Harden. but we forget how good Tobias Harris has been playing all of the whole playoffs. And his defense, how good he's been playing defensively has definitely taken away from his offense. He's not one of the generational stars that can give that max effort.
He's settling into his role perfect.
Yeah, he's not one of those generational guys that can suffocate people on defense and still drop 25. But if he turns that switch a little bit less on defense and puts that effort into offense, you're going to need to choose between which one of Harden and Maxey do you take away, and you're just going to have to live with whatever Tobias Harris gives you. And Spo,
they're going to need to attack Kyle Lowry. They're really going to need to play through their. We're getting ahead of ourselves with these Heat talk, but they're going to really need to play through their guards against Miami because
Banner's as you describe that situation, I'm like, man, if I'm Spoelstra, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly the game plan. Go beat me, Tobias Harris. I dare you.
Which before now I would have shuddered at, but I have a decent sample size of somebody who's capable in a fourth scorer role who's being comfortable in his role. So I don't know. Before we move on real quick into a little bit of Phillies talk and just baseball talk in general and where we all go scorched earth. I just want to show. I can't show it. I don't have the poll right now, but a headline has just come across my phone from The Athletic. Virginia's attorney governor, Virginia's AG has decided to open up the claims and a civil case against the Commanders and Dan Snyder. So this is now above anything that's previously happened, and Virginia's state government is getting involved in what could be one of the most all-encompassing, hilariously vulgar, despicable, revealing court cases that could happen in the past 15 years. This could be incredible to see what actually comes out, because there have been people begging for all these emails to be released.
Basically, you're saying it's for real this time.
I mean an AG hasn't gotten involved yet. So this is Virginia's state government stepping in and saying, we're going to do our own inquiry, and the NFL doesn't get to tell us what to do in terms of those emails. So, we'll see. This could be the nail in the coffin that we've been hoping for. So maybe humanity will prevail. It probably won't, but, we can hope. Getting into Phillies talk. And what was the statement I made? I think the statement I made was Nick Sirianni is the best coach in Philadelphia at the moment. And I think I made this in the offseason.
And I think it's so true.
Yeah.
And it is really surreal to look up dealing with, having watched a full Eagles season, having the Sixers in the playoffs, and the Phillies doing whatever they are right now. And just come to realize that Nick Sirianni is the most capable. I'm not even going to jump into the boys wearing orange and black, because they don't. They have an interim head coach right now. Yeah, Mike Yeo it's fair to leave them out of it. I like Mike Yeo, but he's not a bench boss. And Chuck Fletcher also should not be anywhere near this team by the time next season comes around. But I digress. Boys, should the Phillies fire Joe Girardi right now? It doesn't happen a lot in baseball. Interim managers aren't really a thing. It's very much a wait until the offseason type thing. Should the Phillies fire Joe Girardi right now, Josh?
Man, should they? I don't think they will, but they should. That guy has had such a long time to do anything, and he has not. He
just hasn't. Yeah.
And this isn't my MO where okay. In all honesty, he has not had a long enough time this season, right? I get it. It's a new roster. You got a lot of big new pieces here. But last night, I can't help but feel very knee-jerk and be like, this guy just got to get out. You got Kyle Schwarber freaking exploding at Angel Hernandez, which, by the way, I love how that's the word everyone has used. I said, I was at the game last night, and it was just okay, finally something to cheer about, because there was nothing to cheer about for 9 innings. And
you poor soul! I made the comments. Yeah, God, I feel bad for anybody who sat through this game.
Yeah,
Max, it was horrible, and it was cold too. Worst of all, and yeah, it was just awful, man. But what I'm getting at here is to see Schwarber explode the way he does. And I went back home and I'm listening to the ESPN broadcast because I wanted to see what it looked like on TV. and it was Boog in the booth, and he's like, and Girardi will probably be next. Like, he's like, oh, like any freaking normal manager, any manager who's ever played the game, comes out, gets in the umpire's face, because it wasn't like it was one moment. As Schwarber said, both duckouts didn't like his stuff. Schwarber freaks out. He flips the proverbial table. It's laid up on a tee for Joe Girardi, who has been dead as a doornail all season, the season before that and the season before that, aside from one chewing out Gene Segura, to get in the manager's face and put some life into this ball club, and he has the most civil, laid back, normal conversation with Angel Hernandez, and that's it. It's over, man. I just can't imagine how. That's without talking about how he pulled Sir Anthony Dominguez after he gave up an infield single and put in Jerry's Familia last week. This guy has been giving such a long time. He's really just shown nothing. Like, what has he ever shown where it's like, oh, that's a good move? Oh, that was a nice move Girardi made to win that game for this team. He's done nothing. It's hard to imagine someone being worse than him. So for that, yes. Joe Girardi's done. He's got to be out. I know they won't do it. They'll give him more time. I get it. He's got to be out. I'm so fed up. Banner, I want to hear what you got to say about this.
Max, you want to go?
I don't really have a ton here. I do kind of agree that it feels like he's dead man walking, but that's an unwritten rule of baseball. You don't fire your manager.
It is. It's ridiculous.
Whatever, 15, 18 games into the season. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I agree. I just don't get the vibe that he is doing anything. Like, he's just kind of vibing along, and it doesn't. I don't know. He's been shuffling the lineups and stuff, which I kind of get, given how cold it is. But on the other hand, it's like, we're 18 games in. Like, let something rock out for a little bit. Like, he rested Bryce like 2 days in a row because we were playing like 12 games, and I get it, but it's the beginning of the year, man. Like, rest him day 5 and day 10 or something. Like, don't not back.
He's trying to get Bryce
right
though. Bryce has that elbow strain. He's off right now. He really needs to get right physically because this team lives and dies with him. Even though Castellanos is not getting enough credit right now, boys. He's continued the hot bat. Like, he is a fantastic hitter in today's MLB. You can't fire Girardi. You just can't. Mainly because who's going to take his place? Rob Thomason, a career bench coach? Like, that's not – you can't do it. It just – I would love to see some kind of change for a spark, but, like, you need to give – and I agree, though. There's no – this is very much a situation of, like, Dallas Green. Dallas Green won a World Series with this team. But it's very much, and even more recently, if people don't, if some of the viewers or listeners aren't familiar with Dallas Green, Alain Vigneault is literally the poster boy of his words lost effect. The message no longer transferred. It went in one ear, out the other. It no longer sat with their players. And Joe might have just reached the point where he either needs to light a fire under his own ass soon, or just get out of the way and let the players take over, because it just doesn't seem to be landing. There's no energy there, and last night there's no purpose in Joe Girardi getting thrown out because of who it was. If this was one of the newer umpires on the scene, one of the guys who just came out of the school in Florida, I get it, but this is literally, now that Joe West is gone,
he's the game's worst ref. He's been the game's excuse me. He's
the worst referee / umpire / zebra in any professional sport anywhere. Angel Hernandez is a mockery to the sport of baseball, and he is protected by a union, which is the worst thing in the world. But everybody knows that. Girardi knows that. He can't, especially being a former catcher. There's no point in him going out there and doing just putting on it. Well, for what? For who?
For me.
But you don't matter in the grand scheme of things. You know what I mean? He's protected. It's Angel Hernandez who couldn't care less. And I swear to God, he must have had the over at River Sportsbook on strikeouts, because it was. He's protected by a union. You can't do anything.
Can I jump in here with some stats?
Yeah.
So, Banners, this might be more up your alley than Josh's, but it's a pretty big Twitter account at Scorecards. He's an automated.
Yeah, it gives him a grade.
So this is Angel Hernandez's scorecard last night. He had an 88 overall 88% overall accuracy compared to the 94% average. He was in overall favor for 0.77 runs of Milwaukee with his calls, and had an 88% consistency rating compared to a 94% average. He had a total of, looks like it's 17 missed calls, and has 3 listed impactful missed calls, but I don't know if they always list 3 impactful missed calls because I don't follow this account. This tweet
what
was
I
just
will
brought to
say
my
is
attention.
that account takes a lot of previous calls for the umpires into account. So
wow. That's scaled to Angel Hernandez too.
So it's very much
one more thing.
Yeah.
Sorry. Last thing here. We are going to go out with a 77% called strike accuracy compared to an average of 88%, and 11 of 48 called strikes were true balls. Wow. 11 of 48 called strikes, were true balls.
The only thing consistent about that man is how bad he is at his job. Like it's the one against Segura for strike 1 where it literally
that's listed here.
That quite literally killed me. Like it's the one for Schwarber that was in the 9th inning.
The first one is the Schwarber one on full count. Second one is
I understand
Segura
that,
bases loaded 0-0.
Oh my God!
The third one is bottom of the 5th. Lauer to Camargo, so the same inning as the Segura one. No outs, runner on first and second. 1-0 count. Strike is called a ball.
The one to Schwarber literally killed me because the ball player in me, like I know that the ball player in me knows you need to be protecting there with 2 strikes in the 9th inning, down 1, but it's low and away, 97 miles per hour outside of the zone. It's literally an unhittable pitch. You can't do anything with that.
It wasn't moving either.
And it's not like it's not a strike.
It's not like it came in at a different angle or anything like that.
It was away. It was low and away the whole time. There's nothing you can do with that against as a left-handed hitter. So like I know theory tells you should be protecting, but you can't protect against an unhittable.
We literally went there. I'm the biggest. You got to like. I always get mad when I'm like, we should have just swung. Anyways, this is like the one where I'm like, it's Josh freaking Hader. Like there was no chance he was hitting that. Oh my God.
It's killer.
Before we go, stop talking about baseball. One last thing I'm going to leave you guys with. So the impressions on this, this umpire scorecard was the last one tweeted last night. It garnered almost 5,400 retweets. I didn't want to hurt myself too bad, but I went back through about 20 to 25 more scorecards, and the next highest amount of retweets on any single one of them was 70.
No,
that'll do.
70.
That'll do.
So at that pace, it might be about a month of scorecards before we get the total number of interactions to match that masterclass by our boy Angel last night. So
that was the first time I've ever actually enjoyed a Sunday night ESPN baseball broadcast, because David Cone, having like an old school, like no nonsense pitcher like David Cone in the booth for that, and just absolutely roasting Angel Hernandez was fantastic. Because like even when the booth starts, like not even the booth, when the color guys for ESPN start getting on you, you've lost. Like you've straight up lost. So David Cone, I didn't like you when you were playing. I'm not your biggest fan now, but you did a good job last night. So keep that up. Anybody who hates Angel Hernandez is a friend of mine. And speaking of Angel, he made me want, for the first time in my life, actually clamor for robot umpires. So real quick, guys, did last night did it make you pine for anything as a fan of the game? And I'll tell you what, I not only want robot umpires, but I want a pitch clock. Like that's being used in the minors.
Yeah, give me a pitch clock. Hell no on robo umps. I still like umps. It's one bad egg shouldn't ruin it for everyone, because if there's clips coming out of guys completely missing their spots and the pitcher's like gets the ball and then is like ready to pitch again, and then the robo ump actually called it strike 3, and even the pitcher's like, oh really? Like I thought that was a ball. So no, forget it. I can live with one of these games for every how many.
Hey, don't forget CB Buckner's still out there as well. So.
My guy.
2 bad eggs. Max, did last night leave you wanting for anything more?
I mean, this will never happen, but it would be nice to see referees and umpires across all professional sports maybe be held a little bit more accountable for their influence or potentially lack thereof, I guess, in last night's case. Before we move on, because I think we're about to do halftime in NFL, we didn't touch on this in the Sixers. In the last 21 playoff games that Scott Foster has refereed, not including game ones because they're tied 0-0. The team trailing in that series is 19-2 straight up. Do with that as you will, including game 4, Sixers at Raptors on Saturday. That's one of the 19 now. So
All right.
Do with that as you will. We didn't get to touch on that in basketball, but figured while I'm being a baseball stat nerd, I might as well throw that one out there too.
I love it. We went a little bit long there, but what we're going to do now is shift fully to the NFL draft like we previewed last week. And we're going to stay here for a little bit. It's upon us, gentlemen. It's upon us. And it feels it's snuck up on me real hard this year. But the NFL draft, it came out of nowhere, and it's on Thursday. All right, so draft week. Question number 1, real quickly here, because I don't want to dive too deep into the names until we get to our next question. Who are the Eagles scouting and most likely to draft? So I know you guys have done like the tertiary looking at these mock drafts. So what names have you seen most often linked to the Eagles, Josh?
Yeah, I'll keep it simple. I don't want a wide receiver, but the wide receiver group of Olave, London, Wilson, and I think it's the consensus is Olave and Wilson will get taken first, and maybe London would be left for the Eagles. I don't want that. I don't want to go with a receiver in the first round, especially one from not an SEC school. So I'll kind of brush it under the rug, and I'll pay more attention to the defensive side of the ball. And could it happen this year, gents? Could it happen where the Eagles actually pick a linebacker? The name that I've been seeing getting floated around is Devin Lloyd. And
been saying this for months.
There you go. Yeah, you have been saying this for months. It just makes sense. And it's not the sexiest pick, I don't think, but I think you have an opportunity now, especially with 2 of your picks, right? I think you get Devin Lloyd with 1 of your picks, or one of the other many Georgia defenders who, as I do the research and as you get closer, it seems like those guys are all kind of jumping up the board when the mock drafts were originally coming out. We're going to come to the Eagles. So I'm going to go stick with Devin Lloyd for the name that the Eagles, this is not me, the Eagles I think will get. The other option is I think there's been some talks about them possibly trading up for secondary. I would love that personally. And as long as you don't package 2 of those first-round picks, because I'm not a big trade-up guy, but they're talking about Sauce Gardner here. We're talking about Stingley, right? Like, to me, you're talking about guys who really, I think...
Don't hold your breath on those 2, Josh. Sorry.
I'm not holding my breath. I'm just saying, like, look, fellas, I will get into what I want to do later. I'm saying I'm keeping it realistic. I'm keeping it, like, in the confines of the things I've actually heard that are tangible. I'm going to keep it simple for now. I'm sticking with Devin Lloyd. I would love to get some of those guys from Georgia, but, I'll toss it over to Max before we get a little crazy.
Yeah, Max, who are the names you've seen most often linked to the Eagles?
So the ones I've seen floated around with Eagles, when it comes to receiver, it's been Olave mostly. I think that it feels like a pretty foregone conclusion that Wilson and Drake London are going to be gone before 15. And I don't think the Eagles are interested in trading up for either of those 2. I'm cool with that. No issues, no qualms there. In terms of the defense, I do agree that it's going to be linebacker, but I guess I'll just kind of tip our hand right into the next one here. But I'm favoring Nakobe Dean here, guys. I really am.
I am too. I've seen him getting picked before the Eagles in a lot of spots, though.
I don't know. I think, and I'll say this. I did a little, April 25th today, a little new mock draft during my work day. Nice. I have both Nakobe Dean and Devin Lloyd hitting the Eagles at 15. I actually have Devin Lloyd slipping quite a ways down the first round draft board.
The opposite.
But I think that, I don't know. I think that the last 2 years, the Eagles have kind of shown a propensity to kind of go back to Josh's favorite phrase, to keep it simple, stupid, like draft good players from good teams in the good conference. And Nakobe Dean fits that to a T. He was the leader of that Georgia defense. And that's kind of something the Eagles need. Like, you can't rely on 32-year-old Darius Slay to be that. We know Fletcher Cox is on his way out, as we saw with the restructure this year. We know Brandon Graham is on his way out. We just lost Rodney McLeod. So who does that really leave? Like, what, are you going to have Avonte Maddox be, the captain of your defense? He's a slot corner. That's not the role.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
We don't have a safety that's, stepping up. I mean, maybe you can hope Epps develops into that guy, but Nakobe Dean was the on-field brains behind the number 1 defense in college football from week 1 through the national title game. And I think that given his he's a little bit better in coverage compared to Devin Lloyd, who's a little bit bigger of a guy. He's a little bit better tackler, I guess, naturally. But the Eagles have been absolutely roasted by running backs as receiving options the last couple of years. And I think that ultimately is what tips the scale for Dean.
How and real quick, Max, because based on what you're saying, and I don't polarizing player at the moment, how far would you go to trade for Kyle Hamilton? Because that's a guy I've frothing at the mouth for him, and I'd be happy to trade up for him.
So in the mock I did today, I have Kyle Hamilton at 12, and I think that's in the range. I think if he were to hit, I think if he were to hit 11, I think that's in the range. But I don't think the football team or Commanders now are.
Commies.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to end up trading with them, right? Like, I'm not counting on seeing an in division trade like 2 of the last 3 years, right? So I'm just going to assume that doesn't happen. I think it's in the range. Like, he's certainly not going to be a top 5 pick like what was being projected at the start of mock draft season. Like, we are well past those days. I definitely think there's a world where Kyle Hamilton is appealing enough for the Eagles to jump up a spot or two. The only thing is that the 3 teams who pick in front of the Eagles, right? So from 10 to 15, the Eagles' first pick is at 15. You have the Jets, the football team, the Vikings, the Texans, and the Ravens, right? And the Jets could be a logical fit for him. I think the Commanders will go offense, but they could be a logical fit for him. The Vikings, Banners, I'd like your opinion. That's where I have him being drafted in the mock. I think the Vikings have kind of always, at least in our lifetime, kind of valued safeties a little bit higher than maybe the average team does. And I think that Kyle Hamilton, a really good comparison for him is Harrison Smith. So I think that just, it's kind of like yeah, that's what I mean. But like, he's a better Harrison Smith coming out of college, basically. And I think, for me, a philosophy I stick by when I do these mocks or I think about the draft is that teams are like, what has worked for us in the past? That's why you see, that's why you see Ravens never drafting receiver. That's why you see the Eagles never drafting receiver in the first round. On the opposite side of things, like, going back and drafting another safety from Notre Dame, a guy who was, all pro level for you at one point, like, that's worked for you in the past. Why not go do it again? So that's kind of why
it's a completely different regime. Coach and front office. So what I'll say is the defense with Ed Donatel is a very Vic Fangio defense where, like, Justin Simmons made his name at safety. It's a very safety heavy scheme where the cornerbacks aren't as important. But
wouldn't you want a great safety for that?
Well, I'll tell you, I think 95% the Vikings are going to trade out of that spot.
I should disclaimer that all this whole mock was you can't do. I didn't do the whole trade out. If I did the whole 25 through 32 would have looked totally different. So I was kind of doing square pegs round holes just because I didn't want to go down the trade back trade ups rabbit hole. But
you can check tape. I've been on Hamilton on this show for
you have. I know you have
for months. I will say that 3 of those teams that are right ahead of them in that range, because I personally believe that Hamilton and Gardner are going to go top 10. But if Hamilton does fall, I think Stingley's probably the most obvious target at 15.
Really, I think Stingley's going first. I have Stingley to the Jets.
I think a lot of people are scared off because his 2019 was all world, but after the 2019 LSU was the best college football team to ever take the field. Yeah. After
in the combine and workout, so he is.
Well, there's another player that killed it in the combine called Sidney Jones, who tore his Achilles
in the combine and get overdrafted as a result. But it's still the matter of that's where they get drafted. Like.
The thing is, once those 25 players left and went to the NFL, Stingley, before the first of his 2 injuries, was very pedestrian on an LSU team that wasn't stacked alongside him. So I think you're taking a gamble on him returning to his 2019 form, which every day gets farther away, which is already 2 years behind you. I think he's going to be there at 15, which I think is a very good pick to take to try and gamble on him. I really think they end up with Devin Lloyd because it's just he's a lot more rangy than he looks. I think his size is deceiving. He was everywhere for Utah. Nakobe is an interesting prospect to me because I don't think he is quite as fast as Devin, and it's very much that Georgia defense was incredibly stacked around Nakobe Dean everywhere, and Trayvon Walker, I want to say, was the edge rusher as well.
What wait, Davis, Jordan Davis? Am I going crazy?
Jordan Davis as well on the inside.
All right, so wait, because that's a guy who I like just because of basic. Okay, Fletch is on the way out. This guy's a beast. Like, would it be a reach for them to grab Davis at the 20 spot?
I don't think you can really go wrong with an interior lineman from a power school at 20. You know what I mean? Like that's you really can't go wrong with that. Like it might not be a sexy pick at all.
Exactly
but if you can transition from Fletcher Cox to what Jordan Davis could be, you're not wrong. You know what I mean? It's just not being wrong. A pick in the 20s in the first round is just not being wrong. Which is pretty much you go tackle on either side of the ball. So, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Now, all right, we colored it a little bit there with what we personally want. Who do you guys actually want for the Birds at 15 and 20, Josh?
What I want is I'm going to take one of those draft picks, a third rounder, and one of the draft picks next year, the first round, and go out there and get Deebo Samuel. I am calling for it, boys. And I know you guys cannot like it all you want. And yeah, I know they need to get defenders, but me, oh my, this franchise has not had a legitimate game changer, like a game-breaking player since LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson. Like, sure, they won the Super Bowl without one of those players. Like, there are ways to do it. Like, Zach Ertz was like your real game-changing player. I mean, Fletcher Cox, but like, you don't have any guy like that now. It's not about Howie. It's not about necessarily the draft, resume of the last few years. It's about one in the hand is worth two in the bush, fellas. Deebo Samuel is guaranteed gold. It's guaranteed star power. These other guys, as good as they project out to be, you don't really know. And I think there's a way that Howie has built these assets where you still have a first this year. You still have a first next year. You can fill a lot of these holes that you currently have, but you go out there and you get a freaking superstar in Deebo Samuel because I think that is what this team needs. LaShawn McCoy, Deshaun Jackson in their primes on this team were the last time there's been a real game changer on wearing midnight green. You have a legit opportunity to get it. You have the assets. Go out there and get it instead of taking the chance on some kid like Drake London. That is what I would love for this team to do. Go take Devin Lloyd or Jordan Davis with your 20 pick and use that 15 as juice to get Deebo Samuel because this opportunity doesn't come around that often.
That's upwards of $20 million to the cap every year, though, man.
What is money? What is money when you have a genius like Howard Roseman,
money
playing
is
around
fake
the
in
books?
the NFL, I will say.
Yes.
I could show you 6 different reasons why the cap is a myth was disproved this offseason with teams that have been bitten in the ass. But that's a show for another day.
Well, one quick editor's note here. The Eagles are at 15 and 18 in the draft, not 15 and 20.
Well, there you go.
So just want to set the record straight. Exactly, even better, right? So Banners, this is prediction time, right? Like this is who we're thinking is actually going to be the picks. I have Nakobe Dean at 15. I have Trent McDuffie, cornerback of Washington, at 18.
McDuffie's a name. McDuffie's a good name.
I think that Eagles are going to focus defense here. Josh, I'll say this: you kind of made me think a little bit harder about Deebo Samuel, and I agree that he is a game-changing player. I don't think the Eagles will be in for him, nor do I really think they should be. And I also don't think that he wants to come here because the whole reason he wants out of San Francisco is that he wants to be treated more as a wide receiver. And quite honestly, given our quarterbacking situation and our lack of other weapons, if we were to bring him here, he would be give him the ball behind the line of scrimmage an extra 3 or 4 times kind of guy. And that's exactly what he's trying to move away from. So I just don't think that it's a fit from his perspective, ultimately. If you want my Deebo Samuel trade prediction, it's either Green Bay or Kansas City, right? Like it has to be. They both have 2 first-round picks.
It's gonna be Kansas City.
There's no way that if you're the GM of the Packers, you are not, kissing Kyle Shanahan on the feet saying, please take my 22 and my first-round pick next year, and you can have next year's second if you want. Like, I need a guy to replace Devontae Adams. Like, I need him. There's no receiver in this draft that's going to come close to doing it. Quite honestly, Deebo's probably not going to, fully fill that void anyway, but he's a hell of a lot more than going with an unproven rookie out of the draft.
You think the guy who wouldn't pay Devontae Adams would pay.
Oh
Deebo
no, I
Samuel.
don't. I don't necessarily think he will, but I think that if you're trying to build, if you're the Packers and you're trying to build the best roster, which includes having to win now when you're playing around a 40-year-old quarterback, that's the move you got to make. And I understand. One thing is giving Devontae Adams the highest receiver contract in history. I mean, obviously Deebo wouldn't be much of a step down, but I don't know. That's just it seems like it's too obvious a move to make if you're a Chiefs or a Packers GM. Just make it happen. You both lost the two of the best 5 receivers in the league with 2 of the best 5 quarterbacks in the league. Like, you don't get back there without serious offensive upgrades.
And you do make the right points, right? And the bottom line is that does he have a no trade clause or no? Deebo?
I don't think
he
so.
does not.
Okay, so at the end of the day, it doesn't I hear what you're saying about he might not want to come to Philly,
True.
but
That's true.
I
guess that wouldn't matter.
The Eagles really might have the most assets to offer the Niners, and it would matter when it comes contract time. But like I kind of got a little bit ahead of myself because I just want him because I love the player that he is. But let's talk about the need here that we haven't addressed, and it's kind of like the elephant in the room because we hate talking about getting a new wide receiver. So sick and tired about it, but it is a legitimate concern. Let me throw this out there to you two. How do you think is the best way the Eagles can fill that void at this moment in time? Because I personally do not think it is the first round of this draft.
I would take Chris Olave in the first round.
So you would go with a receiver and a defender instead of doubling down on defense.
Yep, Chris Olave and Devin Lloyd.
All right, what about you, Digits?
I think you go linebacker 15. I'll take my preference in Dean. And I think it's either McDuffie or Olave at 18 because there's definitely a real chance where McDuffie goes and he's not even available. And I'll say this: I was talking to somebody, a friend of mine, and he brought up a very interesting point that this could be a very receiver heavy draft in the first round because we've seen all this talk about market resets going on, right? And you want to stay away from the money. You want to not have to worry about that right now. Go draft a young guy and make 3 years from you now deal with that problem.
It's going to be really interesting because this draft with the weak quarterback class, you're going to see a shift because no teams are going up to get quarterbacks. Teams are going up to get wide receivers. So it's going to be deep in the later parts of the draft where all those teams are taking the wide receivers in the second and third round, like the Devontae Adams where he was picked out of Fresno State. There's going to be running backs that are taken there. There's going to be tight ends that are going to be taken there. There's going to be cornerbacks that are taken there that make it there. It's going to be weird.
About tight end. This is a really, really bad tight end draft. Really bad.
I haven't looked at the tight ends at all. I really don't care about tight ends that much.
I think the highest tight end on the big boards is like mid-50s.
Good for him. You know what?
It's a bad tight end draft. Really bad tight end draft.
Hey, my coach no longer uses tight ends. They use a 4 wide receiver scheme, so I don't care.
And we just recruited a new tight end, JJ Arcega.
Oh my God, that's right. Yeah, we'll see what this new second round pick can do.
We need a receiver. We just lost a receiver and we got a tight end. We need a receiver.
That's true. Me personally, we talked about this early. I really want to see Jalen Hurts with Chris Olave because he's a slot guy. Because I want to see if he can unlock. And don't get on me. Pardon my French for cursing. If he can unlock slant routes across the middle of the field. I don't know if it's possible. And I'm sorry again. Pardon my French, but I want to see if
you have to pay to unlock those.
I know. I'm sorry. Where's the?
You got to buy the. You have to buy Madden bucks.
Oh Jesus Christ!
I just can't wait. I just can't wait for next year at the end of the season where people are like harping on Jalen Hurts and they'll be like, "No, but we got him Chris Olave this year." Like, give me a break. Like, give me a real wide receiver for the guy to work with. We did this for how many years with Carson Wentz? Like, dude,
he's trying. This is bait, Banners. This is bait. Don't do it.
What do you mean? No. How are you comparing Chris Olave to like a legitimate NFL receiver? Like, sure, Chris Olave will be like fine his rookie year, but like, give me something that I have watched this guy play well in the NFL before and get him on the Eagles. Like, I'm not like an Allen Robinson even. Like, that would have been fine.
Josh, I'll say this: if the Eagles were to bring Deebo Samuel to Philadelphia, you wouldn't learn anything new about Jalen Hurts because they'd be getting him the ball within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage the whole time.
They would just take what Shanahan did. I just don't understand how you can, out of so many recent rookie wide receiver success stories, why is that your take?
Because I've never seen a rookie receiver success story before, Banners.
My goodness.
Like, what are we
about to move on? Because I have an impromptu that I want.
Yeah, I want to give me. What's this impromptu? Come on.
I was just gonna say, if we're about to move on, give me one hot take each about the draft in general. Could be Eagles, could be Could be 3 quarterbacks in the top 10. Could be no quarterbacks. Give me something.
All right, my quick hot take is every year people who do mock drafts I think get worse and worse, and I think no one's going to be close to getting anything right. Dude, it's nuts. Like this year, I every single mock draft looks completely different than the other. I just think it's going to be everyone's going to look stupid. That's my big take. Is all the experts are going to look extra stupid this year.
I don't know how Mel Kiper has a job, but that's again another show.
Yeah, I'm with you, Banners.
Yeah. My hot take is the Rams are going to trade into the first round.
That would be hilarious.
I like that. That would be hilarious. And for the road, Kenny Pickett at 6. Matt Rule tried recruiting him while head coach at Temple.
Yep. That's getting a lot of steam. And they're not trading for Baker that came out today.
Okay. There we go. I love it even more.
Yeah.
I believe sometimes, man, if you have your guy, just take him. Even if everyone thinks you're crazy, just take your guy sometimes.
It better be right, man. Matt Rule is on the hot seat.
Well, that's the thing. I think he's kind of playing knowing he's got nothing to lose. He's betting on himself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. It makes all the sense in the world.
I would love that, Dangerous. I like that.
We'll see if it can work out. They've got a – oh, man, if they can only have a quarterback down there in Carolina, it might be kind of fun because they got Robbie. They got a great defense with Jerry. I love Jeremy Chin, man. He's a great player. Let's see. We kind of covered both the other rapid fire questions about a secondary and using their draft picks. Do we have any impromptu? I want to ask one more question about the draft. I'm feeling froggy about it.
Yeah.
Okay. If the Eagles were to trade up, who do you want them to go after? Like, say
that's actually a really good one.
Yeah.
Say the person you have in mind somehow falls to 10, right? Like the Jets, I'm sure the Jets are okay with moving back from 10 to 15 and getting some more assets. Good relationship with Joe D up there.
I'm going Hamilton.
Yeah.
It has to be Hamilton.
I would.
How about this one? Kayvon Thibodeau.
I just think there's no shot.
He's been losing
There's just no shot.
Of steam. He's been losing a lot of steam, boys.
I don't know if I believe in the motor.
See? You're not the only one saying that. That's why he's losing steam.
All right. Look, I'll say if he falls, I would be thrilled to jump up and get him. I don't know. And I think it fills a need. My answer, though, because my answer is Hamilton, my part 2 would be Sauce Gardner. I want a legit dog at secondary. Like just
dog.
All right, actually, hold on. One more bit of content before we go out. Here's my top 10 in the mock that I did today, right? Since I was inspired by the news that Travon Walker is now the odds-on favorite to go 1 to Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
So Travon Walker,
crazy.
I know, it's crazy. Travon Walker at 1, Hutchinson at 2, Evan Neal at 3, Derek Stingley Jr. at 4, Ikem Ekwonu at 5, Kenny Pickett at 6, Thibodeau at 7, Garrett Wilson at 8 to the Falcons, Sauce Gardner at 9 to Seattle, and Jameson Williams at 10 to the Jets.
Whoa.
Wow. So I'll give you something. I think take Thibodeau out of the top 10 and throw in Charles Cross.
Okay.
From Mississippi State. He's
been going up. Somehow he ended up at 16 here, and the person I was, chatting things over with, we both agree that feels too low, but it's like
because he's getting direct comparisons to Rashawn Slater, who came in and is like Rashawn Slater came in and played like all world. So if anybody ends up with Charles Cross, I think they're going to be extremely happy about that.
He most certainly will not make it past the Saints at 16, considering they just lost Teron Armstead, and he would fill in for him perfectly at right tackle.
Oh, Charles Cross and Ryan Ramczyk, that's disgusting. Ooh, that's mean. That is mean. All right, well, that's a little bit of our draft coverage, and of course, we're obviously going to have reactions to the entire draft when we come back next year.
I'm a little scared about next week.
Losers next week, baby. Let's go.
Oh yeah, this is going to be. I love it because
lots happening in the next 7 days, boys. This is going to be scary.
It's going to be pretty wild. So don't forget to check back with us next week as we react to all 3 days of the NFL draft. There's going to be some craziness going on with a bunch of new regimes around the league. And good old Howie. Maybe we get another fist bump this year. I don't know. Is Donahoe going to be in the box again? Is he going to be in the war room? I don't know. Come back and check it out with us next week as we are back with you on Mondays now. And if you couldn't join us live, you can always catch us wherever you get your podcasts: Anchor, Spotify, Apple, anywhere in between. If you can't find us there, you let us know. We'll get there. Don't worry about it. Before we get out of here, Do you have a shaky baby?
I was saying you last week. You said we were going to do top 5 sports TV shows banners. I'm holding you to it.
I said in the I am not ready. I thought we were doing it in the future. I can do
Yeah, no,
it.
that's like a summer thing when it's just baseball. Like after the draft, like starting next week, we'll start having a little bit more a little bit more fun variety lists.
I will say,
said next week.
If you check tape, you said halftime next week. Top 5 sports TV shows, and I'll hold. I got my list. I was ready. I'll hold off.
All right, I'm gonna give myself a half cop out because we didn't do a halftime this week. So
fair enough.
Yeah, there we go. We were ready. We just didn't do it.
There you go.
I wasn't ready. I'll admit it. I'll own up to that one. I am not ready, but I'm actually super excited for that because of the energy you just brought, and I really want to see what this is about now. So you know what? Keep that in the back of your pocket. I'm not going to give you a timeline, but there's going to be a top 5 sports TV shows and movies at some point in the future on Trust the Process Live. So before we get out of here, boys, you want to tap out before it looks like we have 22 minutes before the Sixers tip off.
Yeah, I can do something pretty light and easy here. I'm officially declaring this the summer of the revival of Trust the Process Live. Now that we're all back on our Monday schedule, I implore you to please follow our other social medias. Hand up for all of us. Like, we kind of dropped the ball over the last couple months in general, like across all fronts, including social media. Trying to get the Twitter back up and running, trying to keep the Instagram back up and running. Help us along the way. Go drop us a follow. If you look up, way up past, I can't point through Josh and Banner's screen, but if you go all the way up, you can see those 2 social media handles up there. Please hit us up. Give us a follow. If you're nice enough, maybe I'll even follow you back because, I have that power. So yeah, help us farm some engagements, and, vote in the polls that we put up. Anything. It all helps. It would be much appreciated. And thank you for your ear.
Josh, what do you got?
Just a little simple one, maybe the TV show got my brain spinning. I think we need to all take a step back and appreciate Jordan Peele. I mean, look, that guy, it's honestly nuts how he went from silly Key and Peele guy to one of the best and respected directors that we currently have right now. I mean, I am juiced for his new movie. The trailers have been coming out. Like, I'm a big movie guy. I love, because I personally think all new movies suck. Like, every time there's a trailer for a movie, anytime I go see a movie,
it's all regurgitated. It's all 80s and 90s, and
it's horrible.
It's just all remakes.
And like, I feel like such a loser. Like, I feel like one of those guys who like won't let people enjoy things because people like I saw the new Batman. Everyone loves it. I'm like, I didn't think it was good. Like, I feel like a loser. Believe it or not, I actually want to like things. I just don't. And all these movies come out, and I think they're terrible. And the guy you can always rely on is Jordan Peele, who was just a funny Key and Peele guy. So look, he does get his respect, but just I've been seeing the commercials coming out, and I really had that moment where I was like, that's the same guy. Like, that's awesome. So that's my quick little funny tap.
From Hingle McCringleberry to Oscar-nominated director.
Josh, that needs to go on your tombstone, man. I wanted to like stuff, I just didn't.
I just couldn't.
Let's see. My tap out will be, if you guys, anybody listening out there or watching, if you want to get involved in live streaming or post production of podcasting work, reach out to us. Trust the Process. Any of our Instagrams, Twitter, anything. Always looking to fill some positions behind the camera or in front of the camera if you're interested. So reach out to us. There's tons of work to be done that we would be happy to share with you and continue growing here. Like, Lord knows that's how we found Josh and me. So if you guys want to get some experience and talk about some cool stuff, Philly related, reach out to us. Other than that, hey, we might. Who knows? We're brought to you by My New Philly.
Don't say Glenn Rivers is a smart coach. Then you're good.
We're brought to you by My New Philly, where something's always new
And
everything's always Philly. Like I said, if you weren't here with us live, you can catch us wherever you get your podcast. We'll catch you next week again for a recap of all things NFL draft and what exactly your Philadelphia Eagles decided to do in Las Vegas.
Sixers Heat preview.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see how that goes. Don't make me upset. See you, Philly.